Store owners, managers of Reddit, what were some interviews that made you go yeaaah, we can't hire this person? Interviewers always have their canned questions, tell me about a time when, and then in this particular case it was tell me about a time when you needed to use your conflict resolution skills to defuse a situation. This woman used a drug deal gone bad as her example. So, that's a non-starter, that's kinda funny though. For my jet I had to write an essay like that and wrote one about Trintao Cup and got a perfect score. Well, TBH we all, interview panel, had a bit of a chuckle about it and happy you got a good score on an essay, but I'd recommend not trying to use that example for a job interview, oh hell no. I used getting my jet as an example in interviews. Minus that little bit. Not a manager, but was present for a small sort of mock interview work at a pet store, and we regularly host cats up for adoption. A woman comes in and hands in her resume. Looks fine, conversation goes pleasantly, then as she's leaving, she spots the cat in its cage. Without saying a word she opens the cage, grabs the cat, and holds it tightly. The cat squirms and yells, scratches, and bites. It bloodies up her arm, to which she finally puts it back. It all happened so fast we barely had time to react. I ask if she's okay, and she makes a comment about how the cat isn't very adoptable, then walks out. Her resume went right in the garbage. Why did she even pick the cat up? Oh drat, I forgot to express that, as a human I appreciate felines. Initiating petting. Tries to strangle cat, petting complete. Guy walked in to fill out an application, and by the time he hands it in he's already told 3 people he'd fire them once he makes manager. He didn't even make it to cashier. Interviewed a 19-year-old kid for a dishwasher position. He was living in a halfway home and trying to fix his life. Interview goes well, and I decide to hire him. I get copies of his ID and social and send him on his way. As soon as he leaves, I realize I still have his ID, so I run out to his car to hand it to him. He is sitting in the car in our parking lot, chugging a congratulatory 40 ounces beer. I hand him his ID and wish him luck, so he celebrates after an interview and gets fired. The drinking age is 21 where they live, most likely, also the fact that he's chugging a 40 likely before he's about to drive off. Not to mention the kid is living in some type of rehab facility. The reasons the beer chugging is an issue are many. I wasn't the manager of this place, just the new hire coordinator. 65-year-old morbidly obese lady with butt-length stringy hair was adamant that she would fight anyone who tried to commit armed robbery in our store. She actually did get hired and lasted all of 2 weeks. She also once burst into tears when I casually mentioned I wasn't sure I wanted to get married, have kids. Retail attracts weirdos. Oh now, doesn't it make you feel you belong though, haha, sarcasm, oh, I fit right in. I haven't worked retail in a long time, but I'm still a proud weirdo, you weirdo. I hated retail, I felt like I couldn't be a normal person without pissing someone off. Yeah, I don't miss it. I met some fun people, a few that I'm still in touch with all these years later, but overall it sucked shit. People don't know how to act right when they shop. Have any questions for me? So the back room and sales floor are monitored by cameras? Yes. Huh. That's a shame. Next. Interviewer, I noticed a 4-year gap in your employment history. Can you explain? Applicant, I went to Yale. Interviewer, Yale you say? An educated man. Very impressive. Alright then, you're hired. Applicant, woohoo. I got the job. Foo, gee, how, so he didn't get hired for a lisp? Yale, job. Jail, job. No, he got hired specifically because of the lisp. LPT everyone, when you're getting ready for an interview, don't wear clothes from the bottom of a pile of dirty laundry that your cat pissed on and that you spilled beer on. Just because we're managers doesn't mean we are incapable of smelling things and being disgusted. Also maybe don't come to the interview blitzed either. So much this. It's also nice if a person absolutely must wear cut-off shorts. Please make sure they contain and keep private ball sacks and personal body bits. Don't spread eagle that shit. You are not Kim Basinger. And people who work retail get enough of such horror from the customers every summer as it is. You are not Kim Basinger. No, I'm Sharon Stone. For a student business organization, the interviewee set her phone down on the table, and her phone case was just a picture of tits. That makes me wonder if they were her tits or not. I can't decide which way is weirder. If they were hers, then that is a viable tactic, not gonna lie. especially for an easy-to-do minimum wage job. Applying to work at Starbucks. So tell me what you like about coffee? I don't like coffee. Man, make some shit up, anything but this answer. I don't like coffee, but worked in a local barista and followed a week-long brewing crash course in Italy. You don't need to like coffee to make it. Agreed, but if they don't have the social skills to know better than to answer in that manner during an interview, they're probably going to be the same with customers. So you prefer people to lie in interviews? Plus it's not like Starbucks only sells coffee, no, but someone could say they like waking up to the smell in the morning or put some other positive spin on it. At the end of the day, we're primarily in the business of selling coffee. Having someone that understands tastes and matching a new customer with a drink they'll like is what I was after. The last thing I want is someone to ask what's good here and for the answer to be, I don't know, I don't like coffee. This was over 20 years ago, when ordering special coffee drinks was still new to a lot of people. Matching a new customer with a drink they'll like, lol, what kind of Kool-Aid do they give to managers at your Starbucks? The job is making coffee and smiling, not fucking sommelier work. You come across like you're unhappy. I wasn't the manager, but I was senior cashier, help with responsibility on the floor, and a guy came in to ask for an application and to ask which drugs we drug tested for. We did not drug test at all, but that comment alone was too enough to toss the application. The company didn't have an enforcement policy, and, as you said, you weren't a manager whose area of responsibility was to interview potential candidates, not your most ethical moment either, just saying, hey, maybe not, but I did have a lot of responsibilities as the senior cashier, and one of them happened to be to give and take application at Register 1. Register 1 tripled as a help desk, Express Lane, and Lottery Lane, also sold cigarettes there. We didn't do interviews, we only called from applications, and I was told to only give the managers the application if I thought they had a chance, and it might not be ethical, but a druggie isn't exactly the kind of employee I would want on the floor when I want the tasks done tbh. Edit, added info I forgot. He probably just wanted to know if they test for weed, could have been antidepressants. Could have been a lot of things. He asked several times if any Jewish or black people worked here. We didn't answer and just let him go. Was he Jewish and black? Was he Sammy Davis Jr.? My first job I had a manager named Doug who would just matter-of-factly ask applicants which was okay to steal, his words, a soda, a taco, or $5 from the drawer if you really needed it and were going to give it back. I could not believe how many people failed that one, seriously thinking about it, and guess one of the three. He never reacted, he just kind of noted it on his clipboard, went on with the interview for a couple more questions, and just said we'll be in touch. Maybe they thought it was a trick question. Like the obvious answer is no, so I guess the real answer is yes. I'd suggest putting more okay than the others in there. I had an interview for a movie rental store when I was in college. There was a questions on the application that read something to the effect of there are two types of people, those who do drugs on occasion for recreation and those who are addicted and need money immediately. I wrote in a third option and was not hired. That's not a question though. There are 10 kinds of people. Those who understand binary and those who don't. Sorry, the question was which of these are you? Personally I like there are two types of people, those who can extrapolate from incomplete data. They just wanted to know if you were cool to party and you failed. Nobody wants to work with a square. If only they listened to Huey Lewis. https://www.youtube.com/watchquestionmark v=lb5ykmjaldg https://www.youtube.com/watchquestionmark v=lb5ykmjaldg. Seriously. I've seen those kind of questions on interview forms before, and I thought they were stupid. Even if you think stealing from work is okay, why would you tell that to the person you work for? It's okay to lie. But I guess there are people out there dumb enough to fall into an obvious trap. Interviewed some kid for a neuroscience lab technician, and we were looking for a minimum of experience, know how to use reagents, biology behind the experiments, simple tests, and he has an impressive CV. Impressive. This guy had an incredible amount of experience, starting a startup, has volunteered in hospitals as well. When asked a bit more regarding his hospital volunteering, We work close with the hospital, so it would been bonus points for sure. He says I used the little telescope thing to listen to the lung, a stethoscope. Yes, the thing to listen to the lungs pump. Yeah, no, thanks for coming. Maybe he just had a brain fart due to nerves, it happens to me all the time. I mean, I've worked in the same industry for over 10 years now, and I regularly forget basic vocabulary terms and stuff. My favorite phrase is the thingy that does that thing with the thing. Oh, you mean the watchamaculate? Yeah, that doodackie's a blast, though I never like it when it does the thingamajig. Yeah, I'll know what I mean. Happened to me once, in a company I worked, I had an interview to move to a different project. They asked me about a thing I literally used at least twice a week. My answer was, I don't know what it is. I asked her to tell me about a time she had to stand up to peer pressure, and she told me a story about the time she and her friends broke into a place and stole a bunch of stuff. Then I asked her about a time when something didn't go her way and how she responded, and she said she punched somebody in the face for not giving her what she wanted and that she'd be willing to fight anybody that pissed her off. I ended the interview, and she called back daily asking when she could start the job, even though I told her the position had been filled. Lol, I'd be worried about getting punched in the face if I were you. I expected to get punched when I didn't hire her on the spot. Lol, luckily, she never came back in and eventually stopped calling. Why do you want to work here? I don't, my mom is making me get a job. Narrator, he was in his 40s. I was alleged with a manager during an interview. The applicant comes in and looks at me. Wow, they must have did that on purpose. Confused, he clarifies he has a felony for domestic assault against a woman, but that was many years ago. I'm a woman and I would be his boss. Also, it was a gun and outdoors store. Nope. We really appreciate if you brush your teeth and hair before an interview. 2 separate occasions. First, a woman probably mid-30s came in looking as if she just walked out of a People of Walmart video. Second, kid came in with literal food in his hair. I get we work with food, but it is not meant to be a hair accessory. Someone came in for an interview, and on his application it showed he got fired from his last job because he robbed it and got time for it. To be honest, sometimes people really need that second chance. I second this. The moment you get anything on your record, putting life back together gets much harder, and turning to further crime gets much easier. Obligatory, not an owner-manager, but my mom worked at a Chinese-run convenience store long enough to become lead cashier, which is as close to a manager as you're gonna get. Well, this one time this African immigrant came and asked for an interview with no smile and a haughty look. Already the first impression wasn't too great, but ultimately, it was up to her boss, so she directed him upstairs, where the boss and his family lived. Shortly after, he came back down and left, and then boss followed shortly after and talked to my mom. She talked about her first impressions and asked how the interview went, and yeaaah, no good. When asked why he wanted the job, he replied to pay for my BMW. Yeah, GL doing that on minimum wage, and when told my mom would be in charge of his training, he said I don't take orders from women, so the boss offered a compromise and said he'd take over his training himself, but he replied I don't take orders from racist slur. If it was up to my mom, it would have ended there, but our boss was desperate to find people since summer was ending and all the students would quit, so he hired him anyway. As to be expected, dude never listened to anything. Didn't clean, didn't restock the shelves, didn't count the inventory or assist in unloading the delivery trucks, didn't even say hi to customers, smile or do small talk. He just idled behind the counter and even ended his shifts early cause he was bored. Mom complained multiple times cause by then the students had quit and she was left working double time cause she had to do everything herself, but the boss couldn't afford to fire him cause nobody would apply, but then again he scared away pretty much all the regulars and potential workers. My mom got tired of it and easily found a better position elsewhere, and a year later the dude was still working at the convenience store and her ex-boss looked miserable, you could have just not paid him. Seriously, if he's not going to do any work then keep him on as a volunteer. Showed up to interview reeking of booze. I interviewed a guy that was a bit on the quiet side. I gave him a chance to see if he can change my perception. It kept getting worse after the first question of the interview, but I kept going with the questions. Once I got to the part of tell me about a time that you were in a group, classroom, workplace, personal life, etc., and you had to solve a situation among your team. What was your part in it, and what was the conclusion? His answer was, well, I don't like people, and I don't like working in groups, so I guess it never happened. At this point I was pissed that I wasted my time on giving the interview. I just closed the booklet of interview questions and told him to have a good day. Why get mad though? He was trying to get a job. You need to put some more info into that story or you sound like a big asshole. I agree with you. Just because someone is quiet it doesn't mean they're not a good worker. That's a dick move. You sound like a dick tbh. Just cause they quiet does not mean they are bad workers. I could understand if the job required to constantly speak and deal with social situations. Whoa, what a nice way to give an already anxious person even more anxiety. Sorry dude, I believe that you are an otherwise good person, but that was a major cunt move. If the job is legit dealing with and working around people almost of the time, enough that they prioritized that question? Yeah, that's a no from me dog. Didn't sound like a good fit for the dude either.